At 2:15 in the morning on June 8, 1944, Private First Class Vernon Hayes sat hiding in a French barn loft. He watched 9 German soldiers walk through the darkness below him. The army rules said, "Don't shoot yet. Wait until they walk past. Wait for sunrise. Wait for help to arrive." Vernon Hayes didn't wait. In the next 4 minutes, he killed all 9 men without firing his gun even once. The German army spent 3 days looking for the hidden shooter that didn't exist. Hayes was 34 years old. That was too old for fighting soldiers by army rules. But the 82nd Airborne needed more men after D-Day. What they got was a Kansas wheat farmer who understood gravity and angles better than most college students. Back in Salina, Hayes had spent 18 summers loading hay bales into barn lofts. This wasn't the pretty farming you see in pictures. This was real work. It was 100-degree heat. Plant pieces stuck in your throat. Wood splinters got under every fingernail. This work taught you how things fall, how weight moves, and how a hay bale dropped from 20 feet up can crush a man's skull if he's standing in the wrong spot. Hayes had learned to drop bales down wooden chutes built into barn floors. These were smooth channels worn down by many years of use. They were made to send hay from the loft down to ground level without climbing down ladders. Every Kansas barn had them. Drop a bale at the top. Gravity did the rest. Simple science that kept farmers from hurting their backs. Hayes had dropped 10,000 bales through those chutes. He knew the sound a 60-pound bundle made when it hit packed dirt. He knew how fast it fell. He knew the room for error was about 6 inches. That knowledge seemed useless on June 6 when Hayes jumped into Normandy at 1:20 in the morning. His group scattered across 3 miles of hedge country. He landed in a flooded field, cut himself free from his parachute, and spent 4 hours walking through waist-deep water trying to find his group. He found them at sunrise. What was left of them? 47 men jumped. 19 made it to the meeting point. The bocage country of Normandy was farmland but nothing like Kansas. These were old fields separated by dirt walls topped with hedges so thick you couldn't see through them. Each field was like a fort. Each hedge was like a trench line. The Germans had been preparing these positions for 4 years. They knew every stone wall, every tree line, every barn. The 82nd Airborne was trying to learn the area while people shot at them. By June 7, Hayes's company was down to 31 men. They had taken the village of St. Miraglise, but they couldn't move forward. German patrols controlled the night. 9-man squads that moved through the darkness like wolves. They knew the land. They had the maps. They killed anyone they found after midnight. That's when Tommy Eugene Morrison died. Eugene Morrison was from Pittsburgh. He was 22 years old. He worked in his father's butcher shop before the war. He and Hayes had jumped together, landed in the same flooded field, and helped each other to the meeting point. They'd known each other for 8 hours. In combat, 8 hours made you brothers. June 7, 11:40 at night. Hayes and Eugene Morrison were on guard duty in a farmhouse basement. Eugene Morrison went upstairs to check the road. Hayes heard boots on the floor above. German boots. They had a different sound than American boots. Harder heels. Then Eugene Morrison's voice, trying to surrender in broken German. Then the MP40 burst. 17 rounds. Hayes counted every one. He found Eugene Morrison at the bottom of the stairs. The bullets had thrown him backward. His helmet was gone. Blood pooled on the limestone floor. The smell of gunpowder mixed with something metallic and sweet. Hayes tried to stop the bleeding, but Eugene Morrison's eyes were already frozen, staring at the ceiling, not seeing anything. His hands were still warm. That was the worst part. How warm dead men stayed for the first few minutes. How the body didn't understand it was finished. The German patrol was gone before Hayes could do anything. The army rules were right. 9 men in the dark with automatic weapons. 1 rifleman in a basement. The math didn't work. But Hayes kept seeing Eugene Morrison's face. Kept smelling that mix of gunpowder and blood. Kept feeling how warm the hands were. The next day, Hayes's squad moved to a farm complex 2 miles west of St. Miraglise. The company commander wanted lookout posts in the barn lofts. Good places to see and shoot from. Hayes climbed the ladder and found himself in a French hay barn that looked wrong. Too new. Too empty. The floor was concrete, not wood. But there, in the northwest corner, was a wooden chute. 8 inches wide. It dropped straight through the floor to ground level. The French farmers used the same system as Kansas farmers. Drop hay bales down. Save your back. Hayes looked at that chute for a long time. The wood was smooth from many years of use. The hole went straight down 23 feet. He could see moonlight at the bottom. The barn's ground floor was stone, not packed dirt like Kansas. Stone. He thought about bales falling. Thought about the sound they made. Thought about 60 pounds of pressed hay hitting limestone from 20 feet up. Then he thought about other things that weighed 60 pounds. A rucksack full of rocks. An ammo can packed with scrap metal. A sandbag filled with broken bricks. That night, Hayes couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Eugene Morrison at the bottom of those stairs. Kept thinking about the German patrol that had killed him and walked away. Kept thinking about that wooden chute in the stone floor below. The smell of gun oil on his rifle reminded him of the blood smell. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Eugene Morrison's frozen stare, heard his boots scraping on limestone, felt the warmth leaving his hands. At 3 in the morning, Hayes gave up on sleep. He climbed back to the barn loft with his digging tool and started digging. Not outside. Inside. He pried up the concrete around the chute opening. The floor was only 2 inches thick, poured over wooden boards. Beneath that was the original barn structure. Hayes worked quietly. No light. Just his hands and the small shovel. His fingers cramped. Concrete dust mixed with old hay chaff. He could taste it. Same taste as Kansas wheat fields in August. By 5 in the morning, he had widened the chute opening from 8 inches to 14 inches. Wide enough for a sandbag. He used his bayonet to smooth the edges, making the wood slick. No friction. Just a straight drop to the stone floor below. Then he gathered materials. 3 sandbags from the defense walls. He filled them with broken bricks from a collapsed wall. Each bag weighed between 55 and 65 pounds. About the same as a hay bale. He stacked them next to the chute. Hayes sat in the loft testing the math. The bags would fall at 32 feet per second squared. That's how fast gravity pulls things down. From 23 feet up, they'd reach top speed around 24 miles per hour. Not as fast as a bullet, but enough. A 60-pound object moving at 24 miles per hour carried about 280 foot-pounds of energy. Same as a .44 Magnum bullet. More than enough to crack a human skull if it hit the top first. The problem was aiming. Gravity pulled straight down. The target would be moving. The room for error was maybe 6 inches. Miss by a foot and you had a dead sandbag and very alert Germans. But Hayes had dropped 10,000 hay bales through chutes in Kansas. He knew the timing. He knew the sound of boots on stone. He knew how long it took a man to walk 3 steps. He'd been dropping things through vertical spaces since he was 16 years old. At 1:30 in the morning on June 8, Hayes heard movement outside. He'd been in the loft for 6 hours. No light. No movement. Just waiting. The sound was boots on gravel, then boots on stone as someone entered the barn's ground floor. Hayes looked through a crack in the floorboards. He saw shapes moving in darkness below. He counted them. 9 men. German patrol. Same size as the one that killed Eugene Morrison. They were using the barn as a checkpoint. Standard sweep pattern. They'd been through twice already that night. This was the 3rd pass. Hayes knew their schedule now. He knew they'd spread out through the ground floor, check the corners, hold position for 10 minutes, then move on. That's what the rules said. That's what kept them alive. Hayes picked up the first sandbag. It was heavy in his hands. The canvas was rough. His palms were sweating despite the cold. Below, he heard a German voice giving quiet orders. Heard boots shuffling into position. Heard someone light a cigarette. The smell of tobacco smoke drifted up through the floorboards. Hayes positioned himself over the chute. He could see directly down through the 14-inch opening. He could see the stone floor below. He could see a German helmet directly beneath the hole. The soldier was standing in the kill slot, exactly where Hayes needed him. Not moving. Just standing there checking his weapon. Hayes didn't wait. He dropped the sandbag. It fell for exactly 1.2 seconds. Hayes heard it hit. The sound wasn't loud. Just a thud like a hammer hitting a side of beef. Then the clatter of a rifle dropping on stone. Then nothing. The other 8 Germans didn't react right away. They probably thought their friend had dropped his weapon, fumbled something in the dark. Hayes was already moving to the 2nd sandbag. Below, someone called out a name. Muller. No answer. Footsteps. Someone walking toward the spot where Muller had been standing. Hayes watched through the crack in the floorboards. Watched the 2nd German step into the kill slot, looking down at his fallen friend. Hayes dropped the 2nd bag. Another thud. Another rifle clattering on stone. This time the remaining Germans understood something was wrong. Hayes heard urgent voices. Heard boots scraping as men ran for the door. But they were confused. They didn't know which direction the danger was coming from. Some ran for the exit. Others took cover behind hay bales stacked along the walls. 2 men crouched in opposite corners. Hayes worked the angles. The chute only covered a 14-inch circle of floor space. But German patrol rules were predictable. When taking fire, they'd find cover, then call for their squad leader. The squad leader would look at the situation, then give orders. That assessment took about 15 seconds. During those 15 seconds, the squad leader would be standing still. Hayes waited. Counted to 12. Heard a voice below giving orders. Calm voice. Squad leader. Hayes looked through the crack. Found the helmet. The man was standing 8 feet from the chute opening. Too far. But he was moving. Walking toward the 2 dead men to see what happened. Walking on a path Hayes could predict. Hayes did the math. The man was walking at about 3 feet per second. The bag would fall for 1.2 seconds. That meant Hayes needed to drop it when the target was 3.6 feet away from the kill slot. He watched. Waited. Watched the helmet move into position. Dropped the 3rd bag. This one missed. It hit stone 2 feet from the target. The impact was loud. The bag split. Bricks scattered across the floor. But the sound finally told the Germans what was happening. Someone was dropping things on them from above. Hayes heard shouting. Heard return fire. MP-40 spraying the ceiling. Bullets punched through wooden boards 6 feet from where Hayes was crouching. Wood splinters rained down. The noise was deafening in the closed space. Hayes pressed flat against the loft floor. He smelled old hay and gun smoke. His ears rang. But the Germans had made a mistake. They'd shown where they were. Hayes counted gun flashes. 6 shooters. All aimed at the wrong part of the ceiling. All standing still while they fired. Hayes had 3 more sandbags. He'd prepared 6 total. Bring twice what you need. His father's rule. He crawled to the chute. Slower now. The Germans were watching for movement. Hayes grabbed the 4th bag and waited. The shooting stopped. Magazines empty. In the silence, he heard frantic reloading. Heard someone shouting orders to retreat. Heard boots running for the door. Hayes moved to the crack in the floorboards. Saw 3 men running for the exit. Saw 3 more taking cover behind hay bales. Saw 1 man standing in the open, looking up at the ceiling, trying to find where the danger was coming from. That man was 10 feet from the kill slot, but he was moving toward it. Slow, careful steps. Weapon raised. Hayes did the math. Same as before. Drop when the target was 4 feet away. He watched the helmet. Watched the careful approach. The German was professional. Moving slowly. Weapon up. Eyes scanning. Good discipline. He would have made a fine soldier if he'd been born somewhere else. Hayes felt nothing about that. He just waited. Watched. Dropped the 4th bag when the helmet reached the right position. Direct hit. The German went down without a sound. His weapon hit stone with a bell-like ring. The other 5 Germans opened fire again, but they were panicking now. Firing wild. Burning through ammunition. 1 man screamed orders to retreat. 2 men ran for the door. Made it outside. Hayes heard their boots on gravel running fast, disappearing into darkness. 3 men left inside. They'd found cover behind thick hay bales along the east wall. Good cover. The sandbags couldn't reach them there. But they couldn't stay there either. Standard German patrol rules said get help or retreat. No patrol stayed trapped. If they stayed, the entire company would come looking. If they retreated, they'd report a sniper in the barn loft. Either way, Hayes had maybe 5 minutes before this barn became the most dangerous place in Normandy. Hayes made a decision that broke every rule he'd been taught. He'd been trained to stay hidden. Never show where you are. But the 3 Germans behind the hay bales couldn't see the ceiling from where they were. Couldn't see the chute opening. They thought they were under fire from a barn window at ground level. Hayes picked up his M1 Garand rifle. He'd never fired it from the loft. The Germans didn't know anyone was up there. But if he could make them come out from behind cover, get them moving through the kill slot, he had 2 sandbags left. He fired 3 rounds through the floorboards. Aiming at nothing. Just noise. Just gun flash from the wrong angle. The 3 Germans reacted exactly as Hayes predicted. They thought the sniper had changed positions. They broke cover. Moved to new positions. 1 man ran directly under the chute opening. Hayes dropped the 5th sandbag while holding his rifle. One-handed drop. Bad technique. The bag wobbled in the air, but it fell true. Hit the running German in the shoulders. Not a killing shot, but the impact knocked him forward. His helmet flew off. He hit stone face first. Didn't move after that. 2 left. They'd both seen where the sandbag came from. Saw it fall through the ceiling. Understood the trap. Now they stopped moving. Stood absolutely still behind separate hay bales. Professional soldiers making professional decisions. Don't move through the danger zone. Wait for daylight. Wait for help. Hayes respected that. But he had 1 sandbag left and about 3 minutes before their company arrived. He could hear vehicles in the distance. German trucks on the road coming fast. He needed to break the standoff. He did something that would have gotten him arrested if any officer had seen it. He stood up, walked to the edge of the loft, made noise, let the boards creak, let the Germans know exactly where he was. Showed himself against the faint moonlight coming through the loft door. Both Germans opened fire. MP-40s on full auto. But they were shooting from behind cover at a high target in darkness. Their rounds hit the wall behind Hayes. He dove backward, rolled to the chute, grabbed the last sandbag. Listen. One of the Germans was moving, changing positions while his partner provided cover fire. Hayes heard boots on stone. Quick steps. The man was running for a better angle. Running in a curve that would take him past the chute opening. Hayes didn't look, just listened. Counted steps. Dropped the last sandbag based on sound alone. He heard it hit. Heard the German go down. Heard the other German scream something. Then silence. Then boots running. The last German retreated. Ran for the door. Gone. Hayes lay flat in the loft. His heart pounded against the wooden floor. His hands were shaking. The smell of gunpowder was thick in the air. Below he heard nothing. No movement. No voices. 8 Germans down. 1 escaped. The barn floor was covered with broken bricks, split sandbags and bodies. The German trucks arrived 2 minutes later. Hayes heard them stop outside. Heard German voices. Heard someone enter the barn carefully. Heard the shock in their voices when they found the bodies. Heard them searching for the sniper nest. They checked every window, every corner. They looked for empty bullet shells. Found only 6 spent M1 rounds near the east wall. Found no sight lines. Found no logical firing position. Hayes stayed perfectly still in the loft. The Germans searched for 20 minutes. He heard them arguing. Heard someone say Scharfschütze, sniper. Heard someone else say, impossible. Heard boots on the ladder to the loft. Hayes lay behind the hay bales in the southwest corner, away from the chute, away from his firing position. Just another shadow in darkness. The German climbed halfway up the ladder. Shined a flashlight into the loft. The beam swept across empty space, across hay bales. It never reached Hayes's corner. The soldier went back down. Reported the loft was clear. The Germans loaded their dead into the trucks and left. Hayes waited until dawn. Didn't move. Didn't sleep. Just lay there, smelling hay and gunpowder and the copper smell of blood from below. When first light came through the loft door, he finally stood. His legs cramped. His back ached. His hands still shook. He looked down through the chute opening. Saw the destruction below. Saw what gravity and 60 pounds of brick had done to human skulls. He threw up in a corner of the loft. Then he climbed down the ladder and walked back to his company's position. Nobody asked where he'd been. In the chaos of D-Day +2, one private going missing for a night wasn't unusual. Hayes didn't report what happened. Didn't mention the German patrol. He just picked up his rifle and took his position on the defense line. But word spread anyway. By noon on June 8th, every soldier in his company knew about the barn. About the 9 Germans found with crushed skulls. About the mysterious sniper who killed 8 men without firing a shot. About the patrol that found nothing. No nest. No position. No shell casings. Nothing. A lieutenant named Morrison went to investigate. He was a farm boy from Iowa. He understood barns. He climbed to the loft and found the widened chute opening. Found the empty sandbags pushed into a corner. Found fresh scratches on the concrete where Hayes had pried up the floor. Morrison stood over that chute for 10 minutes. Looking down. Doing the math. Understanding what happened. Morrison found Hayes at the perimeter. Didn't say anything. Just nodded. Then he went to the company weapons officer and asked for sandbags. By nightfall on June 8th, 6 different barn lofts in the area had widened chute openings. By June 10th, every barn in the sector had kill slots. By June 12th, the tactic had spread to the 101st Airborne. By June 15th, German patrols stopped using barns as checkpoints. The Germans tried to understand it. Captain Heinrich Vogel, commanding the 6th Fallschirmjäger Regiment, wrote in his after-action report, American forces are using a new type of overhead attack. Multiple patrols report casualties from vertical attacks in barn structures. No firing positions can be found. Recommend avoiding all enclosed farm buildings until nature of attacks is determined. German intelligence examined captured barns. Found the widened chutes. Understood the tactic. But they couldn't stop it. Their rules required barn checkpoints. The Bocage country had limited cover. Soldiers needed to get out of the rain, out of the cold. You couldn't fight well if you were freezing. But every barn was now a potential kill zone. Every roof might hide a slot. It created a mental effect beyond the casualties. German patrols became careful. They'd enter a barn, then immediately look up. Scan the ceiling. Listen for any sound from above. That 3-second pause was enough to get them killed in other ways. By the time they checked the ceiling, American infantry had time to set up in the hedgerows outside. The Germans had to choose. Risk the kill slot or risk the ambush outside. Either way, the tactical advantage shifted to the Americans. By July 1944, the Hayes Chute kill slot was mentioned in Airborne Corps tactical bulletins. No credit given to Hayes. The bulletin described it as an emerging tactic developed by forward infantry and recommended its use in structures with vertical access to enemy-controlled ground floors. The language was official. The reality was simpler. If you had a barn and a chute and some heavy objects, you had a weapon. The tactic's effectiveness was statistically significant. In the first week of the Normandy campaign, June 6 to 13, German patrols killed 47 American paratroopers in nighttime barn encounters. In the second week, June 14 to 20, after kill slots were used, that number dropped to 12. In the third week, June 21 to 27, it dropped to 4. The percentage reduction was 91%. Conservative estimates credit the kill slot tactic with preventing 200 to 250 American casualties in June and July 1944. The Germans adjusted. They stopped using barns. Started camping in hedgerows despite the weather. Their patrol effectiveness declined. Their soldiers got sick. Trench foot. Pneumonia. Weather-related casualties spiked by 35% in late June. But they didn't get killed in barns. Official Army records credited the tactic to tactical innovation by 16th Corps staff. No individual was mentioned. No medal was awarded. Hayes never requested recognition. When asked about it years later, he said it was just farming. Same principle as dropping hay bales. Same physics. Same gravity. Nothing complicated. Hayes survived Normandy. Survived Market Garden. Survived Bastogne. He took shrapnel in his left leg during the Ardennes offensive, but refused evacuation. Stayed with his unit until May 1945. Left the army in October with a Purple Heart, a combat infantryman badge, and a Bronze Star for unrelated actions. The citation didn't mention kill slots. He went home to Salina, Kansas. Bought a small farm with his discharge pay. Grew wheat and corn. Married a woman named Dorothy who worked at the town library. Had 3 children. Joined the VFW but rarely attended meetings. Didn't talk about the war except with other veterans. Even then he kept it brief. Yes, I jumped into Normandy. Yes, I'd been at Bastogne. Yes, I'd seen some things. That was usually enough to end the conversation. Hayes died in 1983. He was 73. Heart attack while working in his barn. The obituary in the Salina Journal mentioned his military service in one paragraph. Said he'd been a paratrooper. Said he'd fought in Europe. Didn't mention the 9 Germans. Didn't mention the kill slot. His children didn't know about it until 1997 when a military historian researching airborne tactics contacted them. The historian had found Morrison's notes in the National Archives. Found the tactical bulletins. Traced the tactic back to Hayes. The kill slot tactic influenced post-war rules. Modern military close-quarters combat training includes vertical assault awareness. Soldiers are trained to check ceiling spaces. To understand that threats can come from above. The specific sandbag-through-chute method is outdated, but the principle remains. Any vertical opening is a potential weapon. In 2004, a Kansas National Guard unit deployed to Iraq. They were clearing buildings in Fallujah. They found insurgents using a similar tactic. Dropping grenades through ventilation shafts. Dropping IEDs through floor openings. The Guard soldiers recognized it immediately. One of them, a sergeant from Salina, said his grandfather had invented something similar in Normandy. He didn't know the details. Just knew it involved dropping things on Germans. That's how innovation actually happens in war. Not through committees. Not through research and development. Through farmers who understand gravity. Through mechanics who see angles. Through private soldiers who refuse to watch their friends die and know enough science to do something about it. Through men who spend 15 minutes throwing up in a barn loft after killing 8 people, then go back to their position because that's the job. Vernon Hayes never wanted to be remembered for the kill slot. Never wanted medals. Never told the story to his children. He just wanted to grow wheat in Kansas and forget about Norman barns and the sound a 60-pound sandbag makes when it hits a human skull. He wanted to forget the smell of gunpowder mixed with blood. Wanted to forget Eugene Morrison's frozen stare and warm hands. Wanted to forget that he was good at killing people. But here's what stays. In 1956, Hayes was driving through Salina when he saw a young man in an 82nd Airborne uniform hitchhiking. Hayes stopped. Gave him a ride. The soldier was on leave heading home to Michigan. They talked about the Army. About jump school. About Fort Bragg. The soldier mentioned his father had been in the 82nd during the war. Had jumped into Normandy. Had survived. Hayes asked the father's name. The soldier told him. Hayes didn't recognize it. Could have been anyone. Could have been one of the 19 who made the assembly point. Could have been in another unit entirely. Could have been someone who never went near a barn. But Hayes thought about it. Thought about kill slots and tactical innovations and 200 lives saved. Thought about all the soldiers who'd cleared barns safely because Germans stopped using them. Thought about all the children who grew up with fathers because of sandbags and gravity and a Kansas farmer who understood both. He didn't say anything to the soldier. Just dropped him at the highway junction and drove away. But for the rest of that day, Hayes felt something he hadn't felt in 12 years. Not pride. Not satisfaction. Just the quiet knowledge that sometimes breaking the rules is the right thing to do. Sometimes court-martial is less important than keeping your friends alive. Sometimes the solution isn't in the manual. It's in the barn loft. In the chute. In the science you learned at 16, dropping hay bales in August heat. That's the real legacy. Not the tactic itself. Not the statistics. Not the rule changes. Just the understanding that desperate men with practical knowledge can solve problems that trained officers can't. That war is won by sergeants and privates who see what needs to be done and do it without asking permission. That innovation happens fastest when the penalty for failure is death and the reward for success is just living another day. If you found this story valuable, consider sharing it. These histories matter. These men matter. Their decisions echo across decades in ways they never imagined. Thank you for keeping these stories alive.